Right now, what we're currently doing is we're looking at parallel lines. We are then going to move on next week, Monday, to 2D shapes or geometry in 2D shapes. We're going to focus very much on triangles, but we will have a look at some quads. And so we're sort of wrapping up our straight line geometry this week. So guys, if you also just look in this purple block, you'll see some of the reasons that we have already spoken about. So we have already spoken about angles around a point, the fact that all angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. We've spoken about angles on a straight line, the fact that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. And we've spoken about the fact that vertically opposite angles are equal to each other. We also, on Wednesday, started with some basics of parallel lines, which we're going to obviously continue having a look at today. But so far, we have learned quite a few reasons. And remember, as I've said to you before, what you need to start being able to do in geometry is apply all of these reasons within one question. All right, but let's have a look at some examples and get us started. So just a quick reminder, these are the three parallel line reasons that we learned on Wednesday. Again, if you weren't here, if you missed it, if you're new, go and watch the video. They're all there for you. So the first is the fact that corresponding angles are equal. Remember, corresponding angles are the ones that sort of fall into the F shape. If you have a look in the diagram here, basically corresponding angles means that they sit in the same relative position in your diagram. So you can see they're both in the corners of the F, and so they correspond with each other, hence why they are corresponding angles. Remember as well, grade 8, that whenever you are doing geometry, you always have to give a reason. So everything in the purple blocks down at the bottom are your reasons that you need to be using. The next one that we learned was co-interior angles. This one's a bit different. Apparently that's an arrow. This one's a bit different because they're not equal, but they do add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so again, if you have a look in your diagram, we have got the fact that, whoopsie daisies, we've got the fact that angle BAC, if we add that angle BAC to angle DCA, we will get 180 degrees. That forms the U or the cup or the whatever shape you want to think about, as long as it sort of looks like a U or a C or something. Co-interior. We are working with co-interior angles. The final parallel line reason that we learned was alternate angles. Okay, again, if you look at your diagram, the angles in question are in alternate positions to each other in the diagram. They alternate their positions, and so they are equal to each other. Again, remember, anytime you make a statement, you have to give a reason. Alrighty, so that's what we know, or that is what we have done thus far. What we're going to have a look at today is just, like I've said, continuing practicing this stuff, continuing making sure that we understand this. I know quite a few said, oh guys, English, I'm sorry. Quite a few of you said that you struggled, or you found the parallel line reasons quite challenging compared to the other reasons. So this is why we're spending 2 lessons on this stuff rather than just 1, because it is really important that we practice it. Okay, so let's practice some corresponding, stuff going on here, some corresponding angles. Again, this is not necessarily anything new, but we are practicing what we have learned so far. All right, guys, so we've got 2 questions here. Question 1, question 2. We'll do question 1 together, and then I'm going to ask that you try question 2 by yourselves. But let's start with question 1. Now, grade 8s, remember, we have to have a statement and we have to have a reason. So like I've said to you before, just to avoid forgetting your reasons, set up your page that you've got 1/2 for your statement and 1/2 for your reason. If you've already got the headings there, hopefully it'll mean you won't forget about it. The first thing that we always do whenever we're in geometry, and you're going to see if you carry on with maths up until matric. Okay, this is your first and final warning, grade 8s. There should be no messages on the chat right now. I haven't even started a question. I haven't started explaining anything. Stop. right? You should only be asking questions once I have started the question, and only answers and questions on the chat. Please, let's not have the next, 46 minutes of this lesson be bad. The first thing that we always do is we identify our parallel lines. So remember, we identify, or we know we have parallel lines when we've got those little arrows on our lines. That tells me that my lines are parallel. So because I've got the arrows on those two lines, I know that CD is parallel to FG. And so now I can start to look for the F shape, the U shape, the Z shape, or the N shape, and see if I can start using them. All right, so with that being said, we've got two angles that we want to find in question 1. We've got X and we've got Y. Now, like I said to you last week, Wednesday, just because we are working with parallel lines doesn't mean that the other reasons that we've learned suddenly go out the window. You can use any geometric reason when answering questions as long as it does actually apply. So for example, if I look at question X, guys, no hands until I say so. If I look at X, right, X, if we look at its position in the diagram, is right next to 134. And what we see is that X and 134 are on the straight line CD. So because they're on a straight line, if I add them together, I should get 180 degrees. And so what that means is I can use reasons we've previously learned in order to work out X. So we can make a statement that X plus 134 degrees must equal 180. I know that's true because of angles on a straight line. Remember, you can use the symbol for angles, you can use, or you can abbreviate straight, that's fine. Now that we've got our equation set up, we can solve our equation. What that means is we're going to have to subtract 134 on both sides in order to solve for X. And so what we get is that X is equal to 66. Not 66. That was terrible maths on my part. I do apologize. 46. Right, so X is equal to 46 degrees. Now guys, remember, once you've worked out an angle, just put it on your diagram for yourself. It might help you work out angles later on. So it might help us work out angle Y. It might not, but it might. And so it's always important to write down what you have just in case it does help you. So we've worked out that angle X is equal to 46 degrees. Okay, we still have angle Y. And angle X could help us, but what I'm seeing with angle Y is I have got an F shape here. Okay, so if I have a look, is an upside down backwards F shape in green. And so what that means is that 134 and angle Y are in the same corresponding position. And so what that means is that angle Y is equal to 134 degrees. Now remember, whenever we use parallel line reasons, so here are corresponding angles, we always need to state the parallel lines. Okay, there's lots of reasons for this. One of them is often there are more than one pair of parallel lines on a diagram, so we need to be specific about which parallel lines we are working with. Okay, so Y is equal to 134 degrees, nice and easy. Nothing too stressful there, and that's because of corresponding angles. Now guys, remember there's often going to be other ways that you can get the same answer. This is the quickest way to get both answers, but that isn't to say that there won't be other ways to do it. Excuse me. As long as you put your reasons down, and as long as your reasons are correct for your method, you will always get full marks, even if your reasoning or your method or your working out looks a little bit different to someone else's. Alrighty, so guys, like I said, these are the types of questions we need to start being able to deal with, where we have more than one angle that we're needing to find the value of, and where we're needing to use multiple reasons. Just a reminder, okay, we are allowed to message on the chat as long as it relates to the question that I'm working on. and as long as it is either an answer or a question, right?
Yes,
Obviously, people have problems. That is
Yeah.
fine as well. But please, let's not shout at each other when we are on topic.
Yes, and also just to add, please also just make sure that your screen is showing you what Teacher Sam is focusing on, and it doesn't show you the chats. You don't need to use the chat. On the chat, we're not putting any information that is useful for you. Please watch the screen. That's all that you need to focus on, because messages will always be on the chats. People need help to see, people need help to hear. Some other people are putting answers already, which is good for them. So let's just be lenient to one another, okay?
Yeah, guys, the only time it's a problem on the chat is if it's not related to what we're doing. As long as it's related, it is absolutely fine. Please also understand that you're attacking other children, you being mean to other children, you then being distracting on the chat, as we have said before, will result in you being removed. So we have done question 1 together. Like I say, I want you to try question 2. So once again, identify your parallel lines. There's 2 angles that you need to find here, X and Y. And so let us have a go of that. Okay, Chloe, I understand that, but then just close your chat. Minimize your chat. You then don't have to have it open. You don't have to see what's going on. Just have the chat closed, and then you don't have to stress about it. So guys, that goes for all of you. If the chat's distracting, just close it. Like Yolanda has just said, there's nothing on the chat that is missing from the screen. Everything you need is on the screen. That's where you need to be looking. So if you don't need the chat open, close it. Right, so guys, you're trying question 2. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Let's try X and Y here. Again, set up your page, statement, reason. And as I can already see some of you are doing on the chat, if you're putting your answers on the chat, remember your answer as well as the reason. Since Swallow, we are going to do geometry of triangles starting next week. So we're getting there. It all combines together, but we haven't done it yet. We will be doing it from next week. Again, guys, remember your statement, remember your reason. And as I've put there at the top, just in case you've forgotten what it is that we're trying to do, our goal here is to determine the value of the lowercase letters. In this case, our lowercase letters are X and Y in these 2 questions. Right, so that's what our goal is over here. Grade 8s, please remember your reasons as well. If you forget your reason, you're going to lose a mark. Yeah, since Swallow definitely is similar, absolutely. And we, like I was saying, like we use a lot of the same reasons in geometry as a whole. So we're doing geometry of straight lines. We're going to do geometry of 2D shapes, but honestly, we just do geometry and we use all of the reasons across all of those. So it is all basically the same. We've just separated it into straight lines and then shapes, but it basically all goes together. Okay, I haven't seen many Y angles yet, unless I'm just not focused, which is entirely possible. Mostly X's, not too many Y's. I'm going to give you 1 more minute and then I'm going to go through it. Thank you, Sinyane. Sorry, I might not have just seen the Y. Right, grade 8. So first thing we always do is we identify our parallel lines. So there they are in orange there. We know that they're parallel because they have the arrows on them. Now, guys, I've said this to you before. You don't have to start with X. It's not a requirement. Often it's going to help you, but you don't have to. In this case, I am going to start with X because I know it's going to help me with Y. So here what I see is that I've got that cross shape. And because I've got that cross shape, I can see that X and 68 are vertically opposite. So X is equal to 68 degrees because vertically opposite angles are equal. Right, now that I have X, remember, just fill it on the diagram for yourself, just in case. Now that I have X, I need to get Y. Now what I see again is that I have that F shape. It's a backwards slanted F, but an F shape nonetheless. That means that 68 and Y are in corresponding positions to each other. And so that therefore means that Y is also equal to 68 because of corresponding angles. Again, you're using a reason that involves parallel lines. So you have to state the fact that AB is parallel to CE. And that's it, guys. In this question, there was absolutely no working out required. So unlike question 1, where we had to do the working out to find X, there was absolutely no working out required here. We literally just use our reasons correctly and we get our answers. Alrighty, so please make sure that you are checking, that you're checking your answers, that you're marking your answers. Again, there are different ways to go about this. This isn't the only reason or the only method that you can use to get your answer, but this is, again, the quickest way to get the answer. But X is equal to 68 and Y is equal to 68. Okay, so guys, take your screenshots. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to raise your hand and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to practicing some co-interior angles. So again, if you've got questions, you can raise your hand. Chloe?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask, does the if does the if depend on where the arrows are?
Yes. So basically, I say where the arrows are, but it's more where the parallel lines are. So for example, we had parallel lines like this and then a transversal cut in them. We have that F shape. But as long as the lines are parallel and we have a transversal, we can find an F. It doesn't necessarily.
Can the F be like either way, or does it have to be facing the arrows? Is that
No, it could be either way. So for example, if I had angles on the other side, I could have had an F shape that side as well, and those would be corresponding.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Spiamo, the reason we had to work out one is only because it's a straight line, even though they're opposite. Spiamo, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't quite understand your question. If you can raise your hand and maybe try and explain it to me. Otherwise, try to reword it for me. Mostly just because I'm not. Oh, okay, maybe I am following now. So in question 1, they're not opposite each other. So X and 134 are not opposite each other. They're adjacent to each other. They're next to each other. So look very carefully at how question 1 is different to question 2. Here, X and 134 are right next to each other on the line. Versus in question 2, 68 is opposite. So it's opposite at the cross to X. And that is what makes them vertically opposite. If, however, X had been next to, so if X had been here next to 68, then we would use angles on a straight line. So if they're adjacent on a straight line, we would use angles on a straight line. But these two were opposite each other. Hope that answers your question. Right, guys, I'm assuming everyone's got their screenshots that they need. I'm assuming everyone's asked the questions that they need to ask. Let's have a look at these next 2 questions here. Now, again, I'm going to do the first one with you. No, I'm not, because we actually did that one already. So let's have a look at this question over here. If you don't remember, we did it in the last lesson. So you can go back and rewatch the video. All right, so guys, if we have a look at this question, come on. No, okay, cool. We always identify our parallel lines first. So we can see that AC is parallel to BD. I know that again because of the arrows. Just because there's two arrows, it doesn't mean anything special. It still means parallel lines. So we've got our parallel lines. In this case, we do have a Z shape and a U shape, but look carefully at what angles you're trying to find the value of. So I've been given 20, and I'm looking for the value of Y. And just based on where those angles are, I can see that I'm probably going to have to use the U shape rather than the N shape or the zigzag shape, right? So guys, always really important to start off exactly how I'm starting off, first by looking at your diagram, seeing what information you have and how it's potentially going to help you answer your questions. All right, so if we are working with a U shape, let's just get a bit of color going on here. If we're working with the U shape, so there it is, we know that we're working with co-interior angles. Now guys, very importantly, co-interior angles aren't equal, but they do add up to 180 degrees. So co-interior angles are a bit different to corresponding and alternate. They add up to 180. So what that means is that the 20 and the Y plus the 2Y must give me 180 degrees. When I add them up, I must get 180. So we can now set up an equation to express that. 20 plus Y plus 2Y must give me 180 degrees. And my reason for this is co-interior angles. Again, because I'm using a parallel line reason, I need to state the parallel lines, AC, parallel to BD. And then I do my working out. Now, grade 8s, please remember that this is essentially an equation. We have done an equations course. If you don't remember it or you weren't here for it, the videos are online. Please go watch them. You are solving an equation. There is nothing new or different. Just because we're working out angle sizes doesn't change the fact that this is an equation. So the first thing that I'm seeing in this equation situation is the fact that Y and 2Y are like terms. I can add them together. So let's just do that because it's going to make my life easier. 1Y plus 2Y gives me 3Y, plus that 20 degrees is equal to 180. If you say 20 plus 3Y is equal to 180, that's the same thing, so it's fine. And now we start solving our equation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 20 on both sides. Remember, we use inverse operations. And I get that 3Y is equal to 160 degrees. Now, guys, remember, if we just quickly scroll back up, I asked you to find the value of the lowercase letters. That is our goal. So we are solving for Y here. What that means is that I still need to go and divide both sides by 3 because that will allow me to get Y alone. And so Y is equal to 160 divided by 3, which is 53,33. If you put the little dot on top of the 3 to show that it recurs, that it just keeps going, that's fine. I'm just going to round off to 2 decimal places. So I get 53. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, don't know what's happening. 53,33 degrees. The goal was to solve for the lowercase letter, to solve for Y, and that's what I've done. I have gone and solved for Y. Okay, so co-interior angles, the U shape, importantly, they add up to 180. Right, so what I want you guys to try is this question 2. I know that I'm sort of just making it up, but it doesn't matter. As long as I know what I'm doing, that's okay. Okay. Right, so question F, There it is. I want you to try and solve for x and y there for me. So x and y, I want values for both of them. Remember your reasons. Wandisile, you have to divide by the number in front of the variable. So the only reason, or the reason why I divided by 3 specifically here, was because I had a 3 in front of the y. If that had been a 7 in front of the y, I would have divided by a 7. If it had been -5, I would have divided by -5. We divide by whatever the coefficient to our variable is. Okay, so grade 8, you try and question 2 for me, please. X and Y. Remember, identify your parallel lines. I actually have no labels here, so let's maybe just add some labels. Apologies. Remember, answers on the chat with both answer and reason. And guys, remember, if you're feeling stuck, where you always start is you start by identifying your parallel lines. See if that helps you get to where you need to be, or get to the answers that you want. Guys, remember, with your reasons, you'll either state co-interior, corresponding, or alternate if it's parallel, as well as the parallel lines. Oh, excuse me. I can give you another minute and then we'll have a look. Good, guys. Just remember to please put reasons. Okay, let's have a look. Right, I'll come back and you can take screenshots just now. Remember, set up your page as I've shown you to. Statement reason. Now, guys, again, you can start with X, you can start with Y. It's completely up to you. As long as you give me both answers, honestly, it really doesn't matter. The only time it matters is if the question specifically says in alphabetical order. First thing I do, though, identify my parallel lines. AB is parallel to CD. Remember, I know this because of the arrows on them. Now that I've got my parallel lines, I'm seeing 2 shapes. I've definitely got an F shape, but I do have a U shape. So if I start with X, I'm going to start with that U shape. And there it is. What that means is that 75 plus X must give me 180 degrees because they are co-interior. So I start by making that statement. X plus 75 must give me 180 degrees. My reason is the fact that there are co-interior angles. Remember, state your parallel line. So AB is parallel to CD. Now that I've got that, I can solve for X. So that means I have to subtract 75 on both sides of my equation. And I get that X is equal to 105 degrees. Okay, so remember, X and 75 are not equal. They're co-interior angles. They have to add up to 180 degrees. And so I work out that X is equal to 105 degrees. Now grade 8 says actually two ways you can do Y, and both of them are absolutely fine. So the first way you can do Y is you can see that X and Y are on a straight line, and so if you add them together, you must get 180 degrees. That's fine. So if you use angles on a straight line to get Y, absolutely correct, you will get the marks. Obviously, because we're practicing parallel lines, I'm going to work with the parallel lines reason that we can use here. And that is the fact that I have an F shape in addition to my U shape. So if I have a look here, I have an F shape. And what that means is that 75 and Y are corresponding angles. So that means that Y is equal to 75 degrees. And again, I just give my reason corresponding angles. I state my parallel lines, AB, parallel to CD, and that's it. I've solved for Y. So again, there is a second reason you could use angles on a straight line. That is absolutely fine. I've said this to you before, I'm going to say it again. Often there's more than one way to do the question. And so if you use angles on a straight line to work out Y, that is 100% fine. Even if you'd found Y first and then used it for X, absolutely fine. Right? You will see that you get the same answer, and so no problem either way. Okay, grade 8. So let's take our screenshots, please. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. You can either put it in the chat or you're welcome to raise your hand. Again, any questions, grade 8s, please ask. Good, grade 8s. Okay, I'm going to assume there's no questions. I'm assuming we've all got our screenshots. Let's take a little break before we practice alternate angles. All right, so here's our brain break for the day or for the evening. Okay, Lwandle, how did I get Y? So remember what I did here was I used the F shape. So if I just grab a highlighter, that's quite clear. My F shape here is from AB down to E and then across CD. And so that means that 75 and Y are corresponding angles. So that's why for Y I've used corresponding angles. Because of that F shape, I know that Y is equal to the 75-degree angle. You didn't have to use that. You could have used angles on a straight line. So you could have seen that X plus Y are angles on a straight line. So they must add up to 180. It will give you exactly the same answer. Okay, so either way, you get 75 degrees. Okay, one day, I hope that answers your question. So guys, brain break for the day. You know the drill. You need to work out the value of the last equation. Tegofatso?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, by question 2, ma'am, why didn't you use 110 instead you use 180?
Why would I use 110? By question 2.
Why,
This
yes,
question
why
2,
didn't
yeah.
you use? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am, the other one.
This one?
Yes, ma'am. Why didn't you use 110?
Where are you getting 110 from?
Ma'am, from your previous thing, ma'am.
There was been no 110 anywhere. So those are the 4 questions that we've done. There's no 110 anywhere.
Ma'am, Wednesday, you were like, if you're supposed to use 110.
No. F can be anything. They're just equal to each other. So remember,
Okay,
they're equal. If it happens that it's 110, sure. But in this case, it's not 110, it's 75. So as long as we remember that they're equal, it doesn't equal a specific value.
But my answer is correct though.
Did you get 75 and 105?
Yes, ma'am.
And you used corresponding?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Perfect.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys. There you go. There's your brain break. So again, yes, this is the brain break. It says brain break. I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't actually know what the answer is. You might have gotten it before me. Let me just get there very quickly. Okay, I have yet to see the correct answer. Wanda Celia, no, X and Y won't always be equal. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But remember, generally, if we've got X and then a different variable Y, it means that they're two different values. Please remember BODMAS in this, guys. I mean, you always should be remembering BODMAS, but just bear that in mind.
Well done, Signane. Signane got the brain break correct. Well
Well
done.
done. So Sinyane, if you want to raise your hand and you can explain it to us, that's awesome. Okay, tell us how you got, what was it, 90?
Okay, ma'am. So first I said 12 divided by 3, which is 4.
Good.
Then I said, what is it? Then I said, what times, since the cloud is 4, what plus what will give you something that is times by 4, which will equal to 50. And then the cloud is 10.
Good.
10 plus 10 times 4, which will equal to 50.
Good.
Then
I'm
I
just
said,
gonna, sorry, Sinyane, 2 seconds,
35
guys. Sorry, this is where the BODMAS is really important. So 10 times 4, that's what we do first. That's 40. 40 plus 10 gives us that 50 that Sinyane was talking about. Sorry, Sinyane, carry on.
Then I said 35 minus 10, which
Good.
will be 25. And 5 times 5 is 25.
Good.
Then I said 10 plus 10, since it's 2 rainbows,
Good.
times 8, which is because it's 2 clouds, will equal to 90.
Excellent. So again, guys, BODMAS, 10 times 8 is 80, plus 10 is exactly what Sinyane has explained to us. 90 is our answer. Very, very nicely done. Okay, so guys, remember, these are equations. We've spoken about this before. These are not hard, or they shouldn't be hard, because we've done equations before. And so as long as you can solve an equation, all you're doing is you're solving for an unknown. Okay, so our brain break here is equal to 90. Very nicely done. Very nicely done, Sinyane. Your English there. All right, guys, so let's just have a quick look at practicing some alternate angles. Remember, I mean, these are pretty straightforward, so nothing too tricky over here. So if we have a look at question 1, we'll do question 1 together, and then you can try question 2. Here's question 1. First thing that we always do, identify our parallel lines. So our parallel lines here are AB, very excessive highlighter, but whatever, and CD. Again, we know this because of the arrows on them. I then look out for my F, U, and Z shapes. Here I can quite clearly see that it's going to be a Z shape that I'm looking at, because I can see that 45 and X are in alternate positions to each other. So now that I've seen all of that, now that I've just taken like 2 seconds to actually look at my diagram and see what information I have, I can start setting up my answer. I need to have a statement and I need to give a reason. And so my statement here is quite simply X is equal to 45 degrees, which I'm going to start all again. because of alternate angles. Again, I'm using a parallel line reason, so I need to state my parallel lines, AB parallel, just going to go underneath to CD, but that's it. X is 45, nothing complicated there. I've got my zigzag shape or my N shape or my Z shape. That's it. Okay, so guys, remember that it's not always, I don't want to say, we're not always trying to trick you. We don't overthink the question, right? If it's there and it's nice and easy and you think it's too easy, it's not necessarily. So as long as you've seen it and as long as you're applying your reasons correctly, you are sorted. Okay, guys, if you can't, sorry, please ignore me. Right, please try question 2 for me. Let's see what we come up with for the value of y. Remember, I don't want 2y, I want y. Remember, your answers in the chat need to come with both answer as well as its reason. So I'm seeing a lot of answers, but I'm not seeing a lot of reasons. I'm going to give you another minute. Good, grade 8s, well done. Right, so guys, there's my Z shape, quite clear from that what I'm doing, but if we can't see our Z shape, there it is in blue. 34 is alternate to 2y, and remember, alternate angles are equal to each other. So I know that 2y is equal to 34 degrees because of alternate angles. Again, guys, I'm using a parallel line reason, so I need to state that AB is parallel to CD. Guys, if you said BA is parallel to DC, so if you swap the letters, that's fine. I generally always just write everything alphabetical order, but it means exactly the same thing. Right, this is what I was saying earlier. I'm solving for y. We always divide by the coefficient to the variable. So in this case, I'm now dividing by 2. Earlier, I divided by 3. It just depends on what the coefficient is. So y is equal to 34 divided by 2, which, as all of you have said, is 17 degrees. So y is 17 here. Okay, so guys, none of these are too tricky. We just need to look very carefully at our diagrams. If we're not doing that, we're going to have a bit of an oopsie. All right, so take your screenshots of those two. Sorry, I didn't mean to scroll away so quickly. I'm going to give you one more that I want you to try by yourself. And that'll wrap up our lesson. So screenshots. Okay, I just want to decide which one I want to give you. Right, let's try this one down at the bottom here. So I'm just going to do that. So X, Y, and Z, there's 3 letters. So let's do 3 letters for 3 minutes. I want X, Y, and Z here. What I will just highlight for you so that we're all very clear on what's going on is our parallel lines, ED, which is parallel to CB. So those are your parallel lines. Let's see if we can get X, Y, and Z. Remember your reasons, please. Okay, so don't be overwhelmed by it. Like I've told you before, start with determining, actually guys, as I've said this, I've been quite mean here. No, I haven't. You can do it. Right. Start by identifying, it's not mean, sorry, I just had a panic. Start by identifying your parallel lines, which I've already done. And you don't have to start with X. You can start with any variable that you want. Remember your reasons, please. Okay, grade 8s. I don't think we're gonna finish this one. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a screenshot of this question. I want you to just try it before Wednesday. And what we will do is we will start Wednesday's lesson by going through this question, because obviously you still have a poll to do, as Yolanda said. So far, I like what I'm seeing on the chat. Let's just take a screenshot of this one, give it a try between now and Wednesday.